everyone, I'm Joanna Bergerino, the editor of Quilts More magazine. Quilts More just kicked off our 2019 quilt-along of this quilt, as you can see on the cover and also behind me. It's called Color Outside the Lines by Linda and Carl Sullivan of Colorworks. The block uses a template to get sharp star points. Today, I'm going to walk you through the process of making and using templates so that you can make these blocks like a pro. Now before I get started, I wanted to let you know about an error that we caught in the pattern in the printed and digital copies of the issue. The piece labeled Pattern A is actually Pattern A reversed. I'm so sorry for any difficult or inconvenience that this might cause you. I know when you start a pattern, you don't want to worry about making corrections. The good news is that the piece is the correct size, so to make it Pattern A, you can just flip it over. And as you can see here, this is what's in the pattern pack. And it says Pattern A. I suggest writing reversed really big on it. That way, if you lose it or separate it from the project, you'll know right away that you need to flip it over when you're making Pattern A. Alternately, you can go to allpeoplequilt.com/QAM-Quilt-Along, and you can download a PDF of Pattern A, which is what I have here. If you bought the pattern from apqshop.com, the pattern piece is correct. So if you're wondering if you have the correct piece or not, an easy way to tell if it's the correct Pattern A is to look at the straight line when the triangle has its base on the bottom. If it's on the right, Pattern A is right. So right and right. Now let's move on to making and using templates. To start off, you're going to need the following items: template plastic, which you can purchase at your local quilt shop, a permanent marking tool, such as a Sharpie, a ruler, a fabric marking pen. You can pick your favorite. I've got a couple options here. Some scissors, a push pin, and then of course you're going to need one more thing, some beautiful fabric. So today I have the kit that was used to make this quilt. It is gorgeous Tula Pink solids from Free Spirit Fabrics, and I can't wait to cut into them. Okay. To make a template, start by laying the template plastic over your pattern that you're replicating. To trace it onto the plastic, you're going to use a permanent marker, and you're going to use that straight edge of the ruler to make sure you have nice straight lines. You want to trace it as accurately as possible, so that way when you use it again and again in your quilt, it's going to keep the same shape. So you're also going to want to go through, do all notches. So like for example, there's a little notch down here. And then the straight lines. You might notice my Sharpie smudging a little bit, but that's okay. It's not going to make a difference on the final template. I have one more line. And you're also going to want to do all of the dots on the pattern. And I like to also trace the seam allowances, so if I'm fussy cutting, I can see what's going to be in the finished piece. And after you're done with that, and if you have to apply a little more pressure, sometimes the plastic's a little hard to draw on at first, but that's okay. And then also make sure you add the label, because you might not remember what this pattern was for if you have to put the quilt down for a little bit. So Color Outside the Lines is the name of the quilt. And then you also want to put down what pattern piece it is. After you're done with that, you're going to take a pair of scissors. You're just going to cut the template out. I already cut one so that you can see it. And finally, you're going to take a regular push pin like you'd use for a bulletin board. And you're going to poke holes, this part's a little tricky at first, into every dot that you marked on your pattern. That might be a little hard to see, but there. I have 3 different holes in my template. And now you're ready for your fabric. Next, you're going to take your fabric and turn it right side down. Now for this quilt, it uses solids, so there isn't really a right side and a wrong side. They're both the same. It calls for 5.5 inch by width of fabric strips. I have just a small piece right now so that I can show you how to trace your template. So you're going to take the template. Now the template should also be right side down. So I'm going to flip it. I'm going to place it so that it lines up with the edges of the fabric. Next, you're going to take your fabric marking pen and you're going to trace along that edge. And you want to trace along all notches. And then you want to also add dots using those holes that you poked through the template with your push pin. After that, you can take this and don't flip it over, but you can rotate it, and then you can draw the next piece on the strip, and you can continue tracing, adding all notches and marking all holes until you have as many pieces as your pattern calls for. And then you can go ahead and take fabric scissors and cut out the pieces, and you are all ready for your star block. Sometimes projects call for a pattern reversed. In Color Outside the Lines, there are also A-reversed pieces. To reverse a pattern, you simply take it and flip it over. It's as easy as that. Now, when I align it with my strip and then draw so that I can trace it and cut it out, all of my angles are going to be going the opposite direction of the original piece. So here, I'm just going to trace it. And then real fast, I'm going to cut it out. You'd still want to add your dots, but I'm just doing this one real fast for demonstration. So there's that, and you can see this is one of the original A pieces, and it is the opposite angle. You'll notice that the pattern has little notches in the corner, which I had mentioned that you should cut out. The nice thing about these notches is that they help you line up the pieces when you sew them together so that you don't have to offset your triangles when you're sewing them. So here you can see how easy it is. I'm going to flip this piece over. I can align these two notches at the top, this notch at the bottom, and then I can just sew along this bias edge, and when you flip them, the whole unit will be just right. These are all our template tips for today. To follow along with our quilt along, please visit allpeoplequilt.com/QAMquiltalong, and you can also join in the fun on Instagram and Facebook. I can't wait to see what you all make. Until next time, happy sewing.